So all the paradiddles that I've been playing so far have been pretty flat. I haven't been putting a lot of accents in them, which is kind of strange because I feel like most people, when they learn paradiddles, they actually learn them with, they learn them as sort of accented things. It's what that is an accent on beat 1, the first single of each paradiddle. That makes it a lot easier to play them. Instead of feeling like you're keeping track of your hands, it feels more like kind of a melodic thing. When you bring it up to speed, it really kind of adds more depth than just flat. So what I've done is I went through all 4 of the inversions, and I said that there is a primary accent for each inversion and kind of a secondary accent for each inversion. So starting with the first inversion, right, left, right, left, left, the primary accent is on beat 1. Or whatever, you call that the down beat. The next inversion, which is right, left, right, left, that also, the primary accent, I think, is on beat 1. So that's... If we go to the next 2 accents, the next 2 inversions, inversion C and inversion D, the primary accent now is on the upbeat, on the and. So inversion C would be right, left, right, left. It's that first single, so... 1, 2, 3, 4. And the accent is in the same place for the next inversion, the right, left, right. So that's... So... All right, so I'll cycle through all 4 now. The first 2 inversions, accent is on the downbeat. The second 2 inversions, accent is on the upbeat. All right, so here we go. 1E and a 2E and a inversion A. B. So if I'm playing paradiddles here on my snare, I got a right accent and a left accent. I got a floor tom, I got a rack tom. So we've got right? Same thing works for the next one, for the next inversion. Now our accent is going to flip. It's going to be on the and with our left hand. So and then it's going to be on the same beat but different hand. Okay, so I'll cycle through all 4 of those with this voicing. 1E and a 2E and a, here we go, and inversion A. B. Sorry. can also play it as crashes. So I'll pretend this is my crash on my left side. I got... Okay, so it's totally great, you know. Really straightforward. This is where I start most students at. So if you're just beginning to paradiddles and you have never played them as fills before, go through those two exercises, playing the primary accent of paradiddles on your toms first, and then play it on your crash cymbals, and then try to play them in a fill, or as a fill after a groove. So like 3 bars of groove, and then a measure of 16th note paradiddles. The secondary accents of each paradiddle would be a good place to move on to next. So secondary accents would be in our A would be right, left, right, right, left, right, left. And then you voice that. Okay, the secondary accent in a B is the ah. That's right, left, left. Sorry, right, left, left, right. The C inversion, that would be a double in the beginning. So that would be... And then in D, it's a little bit... Sometimes I feel it like just as the downbeat, you know. The thing everybody hates the most, doing an accent after a tap. So you kind of call that the secondary accent. Okay, so then you can voice the same way with primary and secondary accents. This is, again, still really just sort of basic stuff. We're not even really into the meat of what I want to talk about. So let's move on. Let's make it really simple here. We have one voice. Any other thing can be a voice. Let's go ahead and call this our second voice. So what we're going to do is, say, to go in note groups of 4, we're going to take this voice and move it through this voice one note at a time. So in a regular paradiddle, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. First, we're going to start on beat 1. The first of 4 notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're going to move it, permutate it. That's what that means. We're going to move it by 1/16th note to the second note of each paradiddle. So that would be the... Now we're going to move it to the third, which would be the first note of the double. So right, left, right, and then you got to sweep. And then you move it to the fourth note, which would be the second note of a sweep. Now people hate that. Everybody hates that. Why do we even play that? I've already kind of talked about it, but you play hard stuff because it'll get you out of your comfort zone. And what's harder than this? That's just so weird. It's the worst. But I can feel it just highlighting all of the weaknesses in my left hand when I do that. So when you're doing some of these ones that are trickier and kind of like tongue twisters for your arms, don't think like, I'm never going to play this in a song. It's like, yeah, you're probably not, but you're going to start building new pathways to new ideas, new movements. And when you come back to your basics, your basic movements, you're going to have more confidence in your limbs because you've gone past just the basics of movement, right? Okay, so let's cycle through all 4 of those permutations. 1 E and a 2 E and a, here we go. And can add a note. You can do 2 notes now. So then you move the 2 notes together. So they were on the first 2. Now they're going to be on the middle 2. And right, oh man, that right there, like broke my brain. Great. Such a great exercise. It's just like you have to focus. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't sleep on this. That's what we're working out. Let's go to 3 voices. Okay, so for 3 voices, I set 2 voices as my bed, I would call it, and then I move 1 note, 1 voice through that. So let's go, these are going to be our bed. This is going to be my 3rd voice that moves through those 2 voices. Exact same permutation as last time. First note, then the E, then the and, then the ah. 1 E and 2 E's. Here we go. Next. Man, I heard, like, just playing that, I heard like 3 or 4 ideas. I was like, oh, I want to use that. Oh, I want to use that. That's cool. And that's the way that you should navigate through this stuff when you're like deep in the weeds like this. It's like you're trying to build up mental strength, you're trying to build up hand strength and arm and agility and all that, and then you're like bookmarking things. You're like, oh, I like voicing it like... And you can totally stop and just stay there for the rest of your session, you know? That's all right. If that's as deep as you want to go, stay there, throw on some good music, and just make that fill sound musical, right? Anytime you want to get off of the super technical train and just hang out on a fill, that's great. You're building up your vocabulary, so I recommend it. All right, let's keep it moving. You can combine anything. We didn't do any other inversions, so you could do, you know, an A inversion followed by a B inversion. Make that your combination. Right there. That's great. I could put that in a song. And then you voice it. Let's add substitutions. So substitutions are great if you want to start working in groups of 6. You can take a paradiddle, add 2 kicks, play it as triplets. You've got a triplet fill. So, if you add 2 kicks to a double paradiddle, which is 6 notes, you get 8 notes. So again, flip the rate from triplets now to 16th notes. So instead of being, you've got paradiddle diddle. Some of the voicings I was doing was like, that's a good one. I would call that like a primary accent, because the primary accent of a paradiddle diddle is the first 2 notes. Add the double kicks. I like that too because it sounds like the kicks are setting up the hand, so it's like... Paradiddles. The best, right? If you're substituting one note on a double paradiddle or a paradiddle diddle, that would be something like right, left, right, left, kick. Or, sorry. Yeah, right. So that's a little cooler because it keeps you in a triplet form, so that's a good one. All of these things, you gotta dig into them. You gotta play them a lot to start to really find the value in them, and you gotta listen a lot. Once you start getting your ears used to hearing these things, you'll hear them a lot more. All right, let's get to some advanced concepts with paradiddles. All right, so what's a good odd time paradiddle thing? If I take one paradiddle and put a kick between it, that gives me 5 notes. Paradiddle kick. Right? And if you're not really comfortable with 5s, it's going to be a little weird at first. So I like to switch it off, go right hand to left hand. So if I were to just do a 5/4 thing, that would sound like this. Really cool. Love 5/4. Next is paradiddle diddles with an extra note, which gives you 7s. So that's seven over 4. Really cool. It's such a fun place to sit in that 7/4, 5/4 world. Really great, amazing teacher at that and just practitioner of that, Jonathan Colin Green. If you don't follow him already, you should really check out his channel. Great stuff with polyrhythms. So let's do a little recap here. If you're just starting with paradiddles on the kit, I would recommend you start with primary accents, which would be the downbeat of the first 2 inversions and the upbeat on the second 2 inversions. So then I would start with those, get really comfortable playing paradiddles with those primary accents. Then I would go straight to moving primary accents to toms, then moving them to cymbals with bass drums, then start combining that stuff. Ooh, a little crossover there. Okay? You can stay there for a long time. You really don't need to go deeper than that. If you choose to go deeper, add your secondary accents, so on and so forth. Then I would recommend, if you don't already have it, get the book Patterns, Melodies, and Rudiments, where we cover a voicing system, a more advanced voicing system, and we permutate notes through paradiddles. So permutating one note, 3 voices. And then substitutions, double substitutions. Then substitutions with Paradiddles. Then advanced concepts, single substitutions, odd figures, 5s, sevens. That's just a ton of material. Any one of those things you can stop on and just spend a whole day working on. So I hope that gives you guys some ideas of where to start with voicing paradiddles around the kit. There's going to be a lot more.